Welcome to the fourth quarter, guys. We're gonna start off with Corey right now. We're doing the AFC and NFC South, and he's gonna start off with his NFL team, the Indianapolis Colts. Go ahead, Corey.
All right. So for the Colts, start with head coach. Personally, I love Frank Reich as a head coach. He's been able to get the best out of his quarterbacks that he's worked with throughout his career, whether it be Peyton Manning, Phillip Rivers, Carson Wentz, Andrew Luck. All four of them have had some of the best seasons of their career under his coaching. He also doesn't coach scared. He'll go for it on fourth down, and he coaches the win. And after Tony Dungy, Hall of Fame coach, but after him, Jim Caldwell, guys that would punt on 4th and 1 from the 45. Like it's so exciting to have a coach that will go for it and bet on his team. Much like the Colts GM Chris Ballard, Reich's had to overcome a lot in his tenure. He's going into his fourth season, and he's about to have his fourth different starting QB in week 1. If Wentz isn't ready to go week 1, he could have 5 different ones in 5 years, which is just insane. Reich wasn't the first choice for Ballard when he was hired, but he ended up being the right choice and a fantastic hire. For the Colts offense, they do lose a couple of key positions. Both their quarterback, Phillip Rivers, left tackle, Anthony Costanzo, retired. Their offensive coordinator has moved on to the Eagles, but I think they promoted their quarterback coach, Marcus Brady, who I think will step in just fine. And Frank Reich does the play calling anyway, so I think they'll be okay there. They brought in Eric Fisher, former number 1 overall pick, to replace Costanzo at left tackle. He is coming off an Achilles injury, so not sure if he'll be ready for week 1. But word is from camp today that he was out there working out with the helmets and was in some kind of rigorous activity getting going. So his return is looking good. The offensive line should be good this year. Ryan Kelly is a great center. Braden Smith didn't give up a sack last year, got paid, well-deserved. And they got Quentin Nelson, who is going to set the market for offensive linemen, even as a guard. And he's the tone setter for that offensive line. And, he missed most of camp now with a foot injury as well, but I don't think there's any way he won't be ready to go week 1. The Colts skill position talent should be improved over last year. Personally, I think Michael Pittman will take that next step and become the number 1 wide receiver for the Colts. He's tall, he can go get the ball, and when he gets the ball in his hands, he runs a lot like his dad, Michael Pittman Sr., who was a running back in the day for the Bucs. Paris Campbell has had some really unfortunate luck when it comes to injuries, but he's having a really good camp. T.Y. is back, providing that veteran presence. And their rookie 7th round pick out of Charleston, Michael Strawn, has been the highlight of training camp so far this year. He looked good in the preseason game against Carolina on Sunday, and he's even gotten to the point where they're working him in some first team reps. So, as a Colts fan, I try not to get too excited over late round receivers because they have been constant disappointments. But Strawn is looking really good. The tight end room is really solid. You got Jack Doyle, Mo Alley Cox back, and rookie Kylan Granson has been flashing in camp as well. He's I think he's going to fill that role that Trey Burton and Eric Ebron have in Frank Reich's offense, and he's going to contribute day 1. The running back room is arguably one of the best overall in the NFL. You still got Jonathan Taylor, who was a beast the second half of last year. He'll be back. Marlon Mack has looked good coming off his Achilles injury camp. Naheem Hines is a fantastic third down back. And, Jordan Wilkins, rounding out the room, has, provided some decent carries when asked to in spot duty. So with all that said, the Colts offense and arguably season comes down to the quarterback room. Once Rivers settled in, he was able to lead them to being a top 10 offense. Wentz obviously comes in and provides a very different skill set. But while the floor is lower for Carson Wentz, I think the ceiling is a lot higher than what you had last year with Phillip Rivers. Rivers' game was to kind of get the ball out quickly, let the receivers do something. Wentz hangs on to it a little more, takes more deep shots. and adds that vertical element that the Colt offense has kind of lacked since Luck retired. I don't think Carson Wentz is as bad as he looked in 2020. The situation in Philadelphia was just a mess on multiple different levels, as we've already talked about. And Wentz has a great relationship with Frank Reich. He trusts him, and I think Reich can get a lot better play out of him. And if Reich can just get 2018 Carson Wentz back, not even 2017 when he was going to win MVP until he messed up his knee, I think the Colts will be able to make a run. Both Eason and Eilinger have looked good in camp. They both look good in the first preseason game Sunday. Eason has apparently started to separate himself in camp this past week. And I think Eason has showed enough that even if Wentz has to miss a week or two, I think he'll be able to provide enough to help keep the ship afloat. When it comes to the defense, I expect the Colts defense to be pretty good this year. They've got a big-time playmaker at all three levels with Forrest Buckner, Darius Leonard, and Kenny Moore. They did lose defensive line starters Justin Houston, Danico Autry. So they're going to be counting on some former second-round picks to step it up and fill it in. I will say, while Autry is a notable loss, I don't think Justin Houston really is. His numbers looked better than what his production really was on the field. He feasted in a couple of games against some really bad teams, and then there were multiple games where he was just completely absent. They've got 3 former second-round picks in Taekwon Lewis, Kamoko Toure, and Ben Vanagoo that are going to have to step up, and they're seemingly kind of banking on them stepping up to fill in. All 3, fortunately, have been having really good camps so far, so that has been exciting to see. And their first-round pick, Kwity Paye, has been really good in camp too, has showed some flashes, and hopefully he ends up being a steal for them at 21 out of the draft. You got Buckner and Stewart, who are a great defensive tackle combo. And while they lost their starting linebacker, Anthony Walker, to the Browns in free agency, I honestly think their linebacking core will be better this year because Bobby Okereke will be taking over full-time, and he's just a better all-around player. They've got a really good safety duo in Kari Willis and Julian Blackman. And I'm really excited for Blackman because he looked good as a rookie, and that was just 9 months removed from an ACL injury. The corners, you've got Xavier Rhodes back, Kenny Moore, both looking good. So you've got competition for the cornerback 3 role. But the defensive success is going to come down to the pass rush. The last couple of years, they've struggled to consistently get pressure on the quarterback outside of DeForest Buckner last year. They doubled up on defensive end in the draft in the first 2 rounds this year, although Dayo Dengbo is going to be probably starting the year on PUP. But if the Colts can get any sort of consistent pass rush on the quarterback, this defense can take that step from being good to great. Overall, I think Chris Ballard has done a phenomenal job building the roster in Indianapolis. The roster he took over from Ryan Grigson was pretty devoid of talent all across the board. It was heavily carried by Andrew Luck. Chris Ballard has built that roster to be able to sustain the loss of a franchise quarterback just before the start of a season. Wentz has missed most of camp, but he also spent a lot of time working out with his receiver, so I don't think it's going to be quite as big a deal. So if Indy can get a rush and Wentz can just get back to 2018 levels, I expect the Colts to compete and arguably win the division, and I think they can make some noise in the playoffs. I've got them at 11-6.
All right. 11-6. Okay. All right. I got you. Indianapolis Colts with the coach, Frank Reich. Listen, he's a great NFL coach, man. A lot of people don't know this. It might be before some people time in here, but I remember when Frank Reich was backup quarterback playing the Buffalo Bills, and he beat the Houston Oilers. I was watching it. The Houston Oilers had him up 35-7, and Jim Kelly got injured. And my dad, I was like, I think this is over. My dad was like, you never know what happens. Anything can happen. And that was the first like big comeback I've ever seen in my life. So I'm always gonna remember Frank Wright for that. And then I heard Jasise like, some people, especially with backup quarterbacks, are just really good in command the room and they're really good head coaches. And Corey said it was their second choice. That's the best choice they made. Their first choice was Josh McDaniels. He said no. Frank Wright is probably coaches to that effect. Like, I don't want to say this, but it's like my butt is always on the line. I was never the first choice, so I have to exceed expectations, and he's been doing that so far from what I've seen. The quarterback Carson Wentz, he is hurt with a foot injury. There's no timetable, but like Corey said, I think if they get 2018 Carson Wentz, I still think that was better than Phillip Rivers. So I think that they can make that next jump just because the way that he throws the deep ball. The good thing with Carson Wentz is that he's heavily involved in training camp and talking to the quarterback and the receivers, constantly talking to coaches, constantly talking to his O-line, constantly. When you see stuff like that, that means that he's not really going to take. He's staying in rhythm with the offense, and that's what you need with the quarterback position. The running backs, they're deep, man. Jonathan Taylor was an excellent pick out of Wisconsin. Go to 3-down black. Marlon Mack is back this year. Marlon Mack was doing good before Jonathan Taylor got there. So I mean, they could be a 2-back system, kind of like Cleveland, where you got Chubbs and Kareem Hunt. Like, you have 2 number ones back there that could just listen. NFL is about depth, and having 2 number ones is awesome. And then you have Nyheim Hines, who's a good 3rd down catching back out the backfield. The tight end position, the offensive line, Quentin Nelson has a foot injury, but I'm not worried because he's just an overall beast. He's going to be back, right? You have Ryan Kelly. The only question is, like Corey said, they brought in Eric Fisher, and then Hilton is the starting tackle right now. That's the only issue is with that left tackle position. But with Carson Wentz mobility, I think he'll be okay. The tight end position, Jack Doyle has shown flashes. So now he doesn't have anybody behind him pushing him. So he should, if he's healthy, he should take that next step. And the receiving core, Michael Pittman, like Corey said, in my mind, that was a great pick. He's an underrated receiver. And I think this year he's going to make himself a household name by taking the jump to number 1. They still have T.Y. Hilton. So, they're really good in the receiver room. Now, the defense is stacked. Defensive line, DeForest Buckner. He's on the defensive line. Who wouldn't want him? And then you got Grover Stewart. They're both stalwarts. Like, now DeForest Buckner can disrupt offensive lines in the middle, and that's his specialty. Mr. Pay, Kwity Paye, he has been doing really good in camp. From what I'm hearing, he's showing a lot of flashes that is going to do nothing but bolster the pass rush, and that's already great for a good defense. And then the linebackers. What can you say? Darius Leonard right now is he's trying to make a case as one of the best in the NFL right now. That's what I have. Darius Leonard, right? He's standard. He can do it all. He can cover. He can go sideline. He can rush. The defensive backs, Xavier Rhodes comes back again. Kenny Moore. I'm looking for Rocky Alcin to kind of make the next step. But he might be a slot corner, but I think he can be an outside corner. And I would like to see that from this year. At least they said he's having a great camp so far. So anytime that I hear a third year player is having a great camp, that means they put it together. They put everything together, the all field workouts to the meetings to producing it on the field. That's what I think when I hear great training camp. And the safeties, Julian Blackman and Kerry Wills, they're great fits for the defense. The overall prediction. Once again, the season is all on the shoulders of Carson Wentz. That's it. It's no pressure like Philly, but it is because the Colts already went to the playoffs. Like, they are a franchise known to go to the playoffs. Hey, Peyton Manning. Hey, Andrew Luck. This is what happens, right? They are one of those franchises that expect winning. So it depends. If he comes back by week 3 versus he comes by week 6, that could be a 4-game swing. But I trust he comes back. I think they have a good defense, an established running game. Hopefully he doesn't miss more time. If he does, he could be a little dangerous. But I have them going 10-7. 10-7. All right, Craig. What you got with the Colts?
All right. Let me start with the coach. I think Frank Reich is a solid coach. What he's had to basically go through in Indy the last 3 years since he's been there. Andrew Luck retiring, then had Jacoby Brissett, and then he had Phillip Rivers come in. Now Phillip Rivers is retiring, or he retired. So, he's had to go through a lot. 10-6 season his first year. Then he went 7-9, I believe, and then they had 11 wins last year, I believe. So, he's a pretty solid coach. I don't know if anybody can turn Carson Wentz around. I think it's Frank Reich. So he kind of has his hands full with that head case. But hopefully he can try to get, like you guys said, bring Carson Wentz back to not even 2017, but maybe 2018 Carson Wentz. I would love to see 2017 Carson Wentz when he was the MVP candidate. Maybe not this year. I don't know what his injury and things like that. Maybe next year if he can take that next step. And he doesn't really have to worry. Now he doesn't have to worry about a backup quarterback, Jalen Hurts, coming in to take a spot. He knows, they know, and he knows he's the man. So, if Frank Reich can get some good quarterback play, I think the first 5 or 6 games in the season are going to be tough games, especially they don't have Carson Wentz, that veteran presence. But if the backups can come in and step up and play good football, then 3-3 start, 4-2 start, like is definitely there. So I'm just waiting to see what Carson Wentz we're going to see this year when he does come back. There's been talk that he might come back to start the season. Hearing rumors, maybe he still said he's still a little ways away. So that's kind of up in the air. But I think the season, especially the offense, hinges on Carson Wentz, what he can do, what he brings to the table. If he can come back to somewhat productive Carson Wentz, healthy Carson Wentz, mentally stable Carson Wentz, I think the Colts could be like I picked the Colts last year to go and win the division. So I'm not steering away from that, even though they got Carson Wentz back there and they have some injury problems. But I think the running game is solid, definitely solid. I think they have one of the best running back cores in the league. Marlon Mack was a beast before they even drafted Jonathan Taylor, and now they got Jonathan Taylor there. Max coming off that injury he had last year. Hines is a great third down back. He can catch out of the backfield. He can produce. He can spell Taylor or Mack, whoever it is. I think I would probably put him in the top 3 running back classes. They're just a solid group. I'm looking for big things from Taylor again. So another 1,000+ yard season. I would love to see him get the rock versus giving the rock to Marlon Mack now that they kind of went away from Mack and he's kind of come off the injury. So Taylor's he's the man right now. So I'm looking forward to that. T.Y. Hilton, man, I don't know, man. He was hurt. Now he played 15 games last year. He was hurt the year before. His numbers, he hasn't hit 1,000 yards in 3 years since Andrew Luck. So I'm hoping that they can get some good quarterback play. He's been like the number one receiver for a while, but I think Pittman's kind of is going to start taking over that role. Paris Campbell, Zach Pascal, they're all there as well. Like this is a solid core of wide receivers. Obviously, it's spearheaded by T.Y. Hilton, who's the veteran. Jack Doyle is a solid tight end. I think if he can, I guess, get some numbers from Carson Wentz, like Carson Wentz was given to Zach Ertz. They kind of had that connection there. He could have a really solid season. So the offense should be good to watch this year coming up. The offensive line, one of the best lines in football. I think probably they had the best line of football coming in the last year. Maybe they were definitely top 2, top 3. Obviously they lost Costanzo. That's gonna kind of hurt him a little bit. But Eric Fisher, if he can come back from his injury and get back on the field, I think their left side is still going to be just as solid, and it's not going to be a big drop off. But I think they have a really Quentin Nelson's a beast. I think he's probably the best guard in football, and it pains me to say it because I like Taylor Moton, but Quentin Nelson's a beast. He's definitely the best lineman or best guard in football. The defense had another great defense last year, or top defense last year. I don't think that's going to change coming into this season. Darius Leonard, I think he's probably the best linebacker in football. Definitely top 2, if at worst case. He's going to have to lead the charge on this defense. Even though he kind of had a down season last year, it wasn't as great as his rookie season. Still had a pretty really good season. So that team is just stacked on defense. DeForest Buckner is going to have to lead that defensive line. Kwity Paye, the rookie they drafted, those two guys are going to have to really spearhead that offensive or that defensive line to put pressure on quarterbacks. So if they can get pressure on quarterbacks, and if they can get solid play out of the linebackers, their secondary, which is Xavier Rhodes and Kenny Moore, like they really ain't gonna have to do too much. But I like their secondary as well. 2 really good players there, Pro Bowl caliber players definitely. And man, I thought I picked the Colts to win the division last year. I'm picking them again this year. I like 11-6, so I'm going with the Colts 11-6 to win the division and make the playoffs.
All right, cool. All right, Mo, your breakdown of the Indianapolis coach, right? You got it so far, right? Coach,
Yeah.
little breakdown of the offense, breakdown a little bit of the defense, then your overall prediction.
Coach Frank Wright, I like it. I like the work he's done. A lot of people last year, I appreciate the job he did because a lot of people was like, Phillip Rivers there. Let's see what he still got if he had anything to tank. He took that into a 11-5 record, I believe it was 10-6, 11-5. And they lost the division on the last day by a field goal with the Titans. So to do that with what you had, I think was a great feat. So I give him all the credit. Quarterback wise, that's going to be the issue. If Carson Wentz is there, I think because of the talent, he's not going to be asked to do as much as what they were going to ask him to do in Philly over the last couple of years. So I think with the talent he has and the defense behind him, I don't think he's going to be asked to be superhero. If he can go back to, and I know some people might think I'm crazy for what I'm about to say, but if he can go back to remotely that 2017 mode where he was up for the MVP, we almost might be talking about the Colts for winning the whole thing, for winning the whole AFC, because they have enough talent around him to where if he gets back to that form, it's gonna be dangerous. Wide receiver room, I think Paris Campbell's gonna be the key. If he can show up and he can improve, I think that can make things even more dangerous. Running back wise, I love Jonathan Taylor. Like I've been a fan of him. I thought My concern for him was his thread, how they used him at Wisconsin. Will he be able to last in the NFL? But and this is where I would give Frank Wright credit, because a lot of coaches might have gave up on Jonathan Taylor because he was struggling in the first half of the season. Like he struggled. And a lot of coaches probably would have gave up on him, took carries away from him. But Frank Wright believed in him, kept giving him chances, and look what he did. He dominated the second half of the season. So I think I expect big things from Jonathan Taylor. And I think it also helps him having a Marlon Mack and having a Hines behind him. I think that helps take the pressure off of him. Tight ends, we know we're gonna get with Dole. Offensive line, Colts got one of the best offensive lines in the league, and I think that's going to help Carson Wentz when he get back. I think that's also going to help Jonathan Taylor. I expect Jonathan Taylor, if he gets enough carries, I expect Jonathan Taylor to have at least 1,000, almost 1,100 yards this year, depending on how many touches he get. Defensively, I like it. We know we're gonna get. We know what we're gonna get from Buckner. You know what you're gonna get from Leonard. If you get continued improvement from the others, they're gonna be solid. And overall, I expect, to be truthfully honest with you, I expect them to compete for that division. And it all depends on when Carson Wentz gets back and can they hold up. If they can stay above float till Carson Wentz gets back, I can see them being, like y'all said, 10-7, 11-6. I can see that division going up to the last day.
All right, cool.